Awesome. And then I didn't know if we wanted to continue from where we left off with Gates last time, if somebody had some insights, or we wanted to move to a completely different topic. Anybody have a question or?
Well, has anybody tried activating that point on anybody else?
Which point?
The mystery point.
No.
Ah,
Remind me of the mystery point.
Remind me
okay.
too,
It
please.
is the point on the foot that is parallel in sequence to the gate points, but it's not on a meridian. It's that point that you skip over between stomach 45 and the gallbladder points. So between those bones, basically level to those other 2 points. And we discussed how it might be connected to the nervous system. And we did a quick little, hey, do you have any reactives? What would happen if you stimulated that point? Do the reactives go away? And that seemed to work for the group. And the group, everybody seemed to get warm after that point was activated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I checked it out on 2 people and then forgot to do more.
On the opposite side is kidney 1, right? On the plantar side.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I heard long time ago that the middle toe is related to the kidney too. And I said, I never heard about it because kidney is for me from the plantar side and then it goes up on the medial side of the leg. Yeah, but maybe there is a connection. Like I had once a question with the 8 meridians and what is with the other meridians, these connection, right? With the central meridian, it goes up and the governing meridian comes up too. And normally I ask, it should be a circle, right? And it's the opposite. And then it came with the 8 internal meridians, the opposite additional meridians. And that makes sense. So I can think about it has maybe a relationship to the kidney meridian, but it's just a thought of mine.
Well, we played with central and governing last week in my Chi integration class, and we traced it as a figure 8, and then discovered it had a relationship with the edge of the auric field. So today in class, we started playing with what happens if you connect them different ways. Where else do you sense them? It's linear when it's on the piece of paper, and we trace this line because that's where people put it in order to illustrate it. But is it in fact that? It was just a way to illustrate it, but is it actually more than that? I can take you through the, oh, go ahead.
Charles Krebs and LEAP, we work with checking the central vessel, making sure all the points are on board. If they're not, we balance, all the 24 points. If governing vessels if any of the 29 points of the governing vessel are off, we have to balance them sometimes. Then we connect them by touching the beginning and end points of both central and governing. And then there's a whole process to, it's called the celestial circuit. And it's definitely connected to the field as a whole, for sure. Because Charles was putting it on originally for brain integration. How's your central? How's your governing? How are they doing together? And people who were doing Charles's LEAP process were discovering unintended side benefits like allergies were going away, electromagnetic sensitivity was decreasing.
Mm-hmm. And that's with tracing central and governing and bringing them all into balance?
No, it's about putting the beginning and end points on at the same time and then switching polarity hands. Actually, we weren't working with governing 29. We were working with governing 28, which is right there
Mm-hmm.
underneath the lip,
Mm-hmm.
under the governing 26 point. So we were putting that on in combination with the tongue in 3 positions along the roof of the mouth, close to the teeth, middle of the roof of the mouth, and then as far back as your tongue could reach in the back of the roof of the mouth. And it's interesting when you challenge that with or without electromagnetic, what am I saying? With or without electromagnetic challenge, just in the clear, or with an electromagnetic challenge, different types of electromagnetic challenges. Yeah, it can be really profound. Oh, and geopathic stress. Oh, and barometric pressure. We found that out too, that it really, people are really sensitive to the weather changing, sunny to rainy or whatever, or going, you know about the Coquihalla here in BC, everybody here on this call, going up the Coquihalla, absolutely horrible for one of my clients. And I said, sounds to me, don't ask me how I use that language, sounds to me like the celestial circuit's off, and put it on. And then her next trip next week up to Coquihalla was completely different. So the central and governing together, when you talk about it being connected to, I take it, the edge of the 7th layer of the aura, to be more specific. Yeah, I think that you're noticing something there that Charles and his students have noticed. And how that all relates to the mystery point on the foot, I don't know. I have not seen all that many in-person clients to activate that on, but I have given it as homework to some people that were stupid anxious, what with the planetary alignments and the lunar eclipse and everything, there's some people that have been really whacked for the last week or two. And I'm just saying, rub all these points between your toes, especially between the 3rd toe and the 4th toe, that little spot right there. Just go along that whole ridge between the bones and give that a good rub. And most people who are stressed out are finding it exquisitely tender.
I
So
teach it to my, oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
I teach it to my reflexology students, and they find it very tender too, because they never heard about it before, right? They have no knowledge from Touch for Health, from the gate points.
Yeah, well, in Touch for Health, you're told to leave it alone, so it's usually not activated. It's not a point. Why would you activate that point on your foot as a regular muggle walking around? I have a friend I taught the gate points to, and she says, oh, is that why I like to run the faucet water in the bathtub full force along the tops of her feet? She just loves to run that faucet across the tops of her feet. But who else finds, like, that's kind of a weird part of your body to stimulate on your own, right?
No, but your flip-flops would.
Yeah, a little.
They kind of go right across there. I never thought of that. Because usually your shoe doesn't really go anywhere
Shoe
near the
don't.
points. But the flip-flops, the way they go across is across some of the points. So when you're walking, you'd have a pull that's going across them. Might just be sensation onto the skin, though, so it might not have any effect.
Diane's just smiling away.
No, we just, Helga, were you there for the structural reflexology seminar? Which is never wear a flip-flop. That's why I was laughing, because according to the structural reflexology gal, they cause bunions, which cause a host of problems within the body.
Well, chiropractors hate them. They're not good for your arches. It's not good for the health of the foot.
Yeah, this was more about the muscles. But yes. can cause
Alright.
everything from lower back
Well,
to
yeah, everything
acid
from,
reflux.
who knew?
So we traced stomach meridian, and then we stopped over top of that point today. And some people said that felt like ESRs and complete calm. And one person ended up heating up.
Cool.
So you were tracing the stomach meridian, which ends on the tip of the nail by the nail bed of the pointer toe. And you stopped on the mystery point, which is one bone over towards the middle of the foot to the lateral side of the stomach meridian.
Yeah, because it would have been top of the foot for K1 rather than touching the bottom of the foot because we were sitting. So, you're not reaching the bottom of your foot. So it was just to take the hands over top of that K1 area. So yes, that would be the mystery point. Not rubbing it, just holding the chakra of the palm of the hand over that space.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I need to find some volunteers to find reactives on and just activate that point and neutrally check and see if the reactives have gone away. I'd like to do a bigger study on that.
Mm-hmm.
So with that thought out there on the recording, in case people don't listen to last month's recording, I'm looking for a simpler way to correct reactives. And I'm just wondering if this could be a universal reactive clearing point. If you can't spindle the belly of certain muscles like psoas, the abdominals, there's a lot of muscles, the subscapularis, and then there's all the little internal muscles like the rotatories. You can't get in to spindle those ones. But if you know how to put them online, they can really be reactors. How do you tone them down? How do you reset the communication between muscle A and muscle B? I'm just hoping that the mystery point might do the trick. So.
Mm-hmm. For me, if you do something like brush knees, which goes, see if I can get some of it. I have a small space tonight, but it would be one hand going back, the other hand going out, hands coming in and down, and you're going from side to side. If you did a bunch of different things and you wanted to make sure there were no reactives, you could go to the other place of, rather than looking at it as a reactive, is looking at it as non-integration, and then do an activity that actually would reintegrate everything and bring it back into harmony with each other.
I was saying I wanted something easy and fast.
Well, that is.
If you know how to teach an integrative movement such as brush hands, moving hands like clouds, some of these are really complex movements in the shifting in the body and the integration of how the hands move and oppose each other. Rubbing a point is like taking an aspirin. It's a little faster.
It is, but would you know if everything was integrated completely so that it would stay there? Perhaps a movement would give you the opportunity for the body to know where it is in space and how it needs to come back together and work together. That's my head thinks about. Because we can put it on the table together, but does it transfer to everyday activity that you might participate in.
I'm 100% on board with what you're saying there. Are you girls following what she's saying?
Yes, I agree with movement would be the best way to put it, would allow the body to understand that there's integration versus the aspirin.
Yeah, I'm more for the aspirin part. I like more to activate acupressure points. And then you have a better movement after. Or might have a better movement after. Depends which acupressure points it pointed
Right,
to.
but how long does that last if it's not fully integrated? So there are times I've fallen away from doing this because of the type of balancing I do with the chakras and one thing or the other. But way back when I was learning touch for health or body management or anything, I would say let's integrate the changes now by doing some cross crawls, and you need to do 5, you need to do 10, you need to do 20. So what do you feel as at least a basic activity? Could it be cross crawls to bring the integration in? Because that one's fairly simple to teach. And I know that you have a repertoire, Michelle, but I'm thinking about other people that don't have your grounding, or they don't have the time at the end of a session to say, now shift your weight and do this and move like this and, you know, follow me, and having the space to do some of the movements that you're talking about can also be limiting for some people. However, I really, really like the idea of creating durable, long-lasting results with our clients. And if you just have to do a little integrative movement at the end to anchor everything and to tell all the reflexes to say, look how all the parts are working together now. Let's all keep playing nice together. I believe that's an important contribution to put out there in the world to say, in your own clinic, what can you do as an integrative movement? What can you test for? And then get feedback from that client at their next visit to say, so how was your last session? And see if they give different feedback than normal.
Mm-hmm. I think for movement, because a lot of people, if they're going to do cross crawls, they'll do a cross crawl without having to move the shoulders. Their hand goes across to their knee, right? They don't have to engage that shoulder seam, but you want the shoulder seam and the hip seam to be expanded and contracted in order for the brain to integrate it. So if you were going to do a cross crawl, you would just want to make sure it was a nice big cross crawl rather than a small one, because so many people will do minimum amount of movement.
Long time ago in a course, I learned that after a balance, if you want to integrate it into the body, that it stays into the body and not breaking down again, you need to find a place where you always remember that is stored there. The result is stored there, like tapping the shoulder or tapping the knee or so. And then when you are feeling something is getting off, you just have to tap again this part, where it is stored, and it will be again stabilized. That was in a course long time ago, over 40 years ago.
So anchoring.
Anchoring, yes.
Yeah, because the different modalities will anchor.
Mm.
So you have that. But if you have somebody who balances a lot, you have a lot of anchors.
Do you think the client comes so often? Not with me. They are coming a few times and then they feel better, or they look for somebody else. That's my experience with Touch for Health.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about anchoring different integrations in different parts of the body.
Mm-hmm.
The memory. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You can stack anchors. So every time you feel integrated, regardless of the modality, the session, whatever you just did, you could anchor somewhere each time to remind the body, feeling integrated, feeling really integrated, right? And it doesn't matter what caused the integration, just the integration. And then I agree, because then firing it when you don't feel integrated reminds the body of that.
Mhm.
I would probably use therapeutic touch. And I would ensure that there was flow in the field and that what I saw as a cue was the integration.
Interesting. And that's why I love TT. That's
No,
interesting.
I can't connect to that understanding. I get that you're sensing a flow in the field, and then I didn't follow you after that.
Yeah, so with therapeutic touch, different practitioners observe cues in different ways. And so I would see the field integrating or not.
Or you might sense it.
Yeah. Yeah, different people would do it different ways. Absolutely.
Mhm. I was just trying for Denise to.
Right. So then my question is, okay, it's you sense it, see it, confirm in some way it's integrated. They're good to go. Send them out the door. And if you sense they're not integrated, would you then spend a few more minutes to do that so that you could get that flow, the sense, the integration is there?
Absolutely. Or perhaps ask them why there's resistance to it. Because not everybody wants to heal.
They say
That's
they do,
true.
though.
Yeah, they do, but they really don't, some of them. So giving them something to think about is good too.
If they need to go out of their comfort zone, some people don't want to hear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I agree. I agree.
One of my early cases after I learned about sabotage, but I wasn't actively using sabotage. I did balance on a woman and she felt amazing at the session. She emailed me the next day how amazing she felt. At the end of the next day, she took a shower and slipped in the shower and came, she says, I want to have that feeling back. And she says it was funny how it happened. And whatever her words were, I went, sabotage. So we did the whole, I want to maintain my comfort. I want to be well. I don't want to. And she was shocked to discover her unconscious mind was holding her back and keeping her in that painful place. That was a really early awareness of how we can sabotage ourselves. So I literally describe that to people. I says, are you doing something to metaphorically or literally kick yourself in the ass so you fall down and can't achieve this goal? And they'll often say, well, yeah. It's like, well, then why? I don't know. But yeah, now that you describe it that way, that's what I'm doing.
But maybe there's a lesson that they're supposed to learn. So bypassing the lesson isn't for their highest and greatest good.
Mhm.
Can the lesson, though, be developing awareness that that conflict or that reversal exists?
I I would say no.
Interesting.
It is interesting though, and Helga, your comment about people come for a couple of times and then they go to find other things, right?
Mhm. They
That
don't want to go
wander.
out of their comfort zone, because then it's getting uncomfortable, because you are going more into depths, or it comes up during the session. and they don't feel comfortable anymore. And then they are not coming back because they don't want to know what maybe comes up, what they don't want to see and want to hear.
Absolutely.
So should we be doing better screening for those first-time clients?
I always do.
What does that look like?
I actually muscle test before I take anybody to see if they're actually wanting to heal. I've said no to people. I've
Oh,
turned
that's a
people
good
away.
point. That's a good point. I never thought about it.
And then what is their reaction usually, Diane? If you were to say, I don't feel you're ready, what do they?
I offer them an affirmation if they want to work with an affirmation to bring whatever they need to up to the surface, because my work, I feel like I don't feel comfortable pulling stuff out of people, but I'll work on the surface. So if they bring it up to the surface, we can work on it, and the affirmation will help them do that. So I tell them they have to do it for 21 to 28 days, and then they can come back and see me if they want, or they don't have to, but I give them the affirmation for free.
That is really
And a lot
interesting.
of times I have them choose their own affirmation, and a lot of times they find that the affirmation they choose is not for them. So they're actually keeping other people's energy. So I've had it where they've had to choose 6 different ones before they get to the actual one that is theirs. And I ask them in their heads to name the person whose energy that they've held. And so once they release that, they can get to them. And I said, once we get to you, I can work with you. But I can't work with you when you're holding all these other people's energy, because all we're doing then is we're removing the energy of the other people, and or you're a surrogate for them because you're holding all their energy. And so we're not actually working with you. Anyway, sorry, I get on a bit of a rock with that one.
It's an important one though, because it comes up all the time and we don't really ever talk about it.
I agree there is that going on for a number of people. There are a number of people who will come in and they're saying, I need you to fix my son by giving me a balance. And it's, well, does your son want this to happen? Can I get his express permission? But no, otherwise, no, I won't. He's got his own path. It's karma to mess with that. And they're going, really? No, but I'm their mother and I can. It's just like, okay, now we know some little bit of why this person is going in their direction is because they might not want to be controlled. But I look at it from another direction too. I heard you say people are coming in, possibly, or you're meeting people who are bringing other people's stuff to the table. I regularly find people who show up and want the change, but the part that needs the healing is outside the door, it's at home, it's where they were born, it's somewhere else. It's not in their field. And that's one of the things I learned from kinergetics is to invite them to be present on all levels and dimensions. And if you don't have that on board when you start, you're only fixing the parts that knew ahead of time what was on the menu and they were okay with it. And the other guys are, they stayed home. And so you're not truly serving that whole client if that's the case. And that's another thing. I've only seen that happen in kinergetics. I've never seen any other model. I've seen integrated healing work with people holographically, and applied physiology works in the hologram. And SIPS works on all levels of the aura once you get trained in that. But the average person in kinesiology, I don't think I've seen that piece. I've seen people like in PKP, I'm 100% ready, willing, and able to be here taking this balance. I'm not, I am. And then you're good to go into the session. If you're not good to go, there's balance to give before you do the balance for that they came in for.
Right. And what I'm saying is, I want them to feel empowered, so I give them the affirmation instead of clearing it for them. And if they want to come back to me empowered being themselves, then I will work with them.
So you give them the affirmation, send them home, and you ask them to just put that up on the mirror. Do you ask them to do anything to activate it, or?
They can either sleep on it overnight, like during the nights, or they can put it in their left pocket during the day. But they can't do both because it has to integrate over one of the periods, night or day.
Okay.
And if they get stuck and feel like they don't want to do it, it's because something's popped up, and I'll see them and help support them clear that before they go to the next.
Mhm.
But they have to do the work themselves. I'm not going to do it for them.
Mhm. And I think that's the facilitator self-empowerment piece that's so important. Mhm.
That's
What
the
about
part of you, Diane, when I first met you that I knew was different.
Yes.
Can I go on to what I named what I saw you and your mission in the world? Can I name that out loud?
Sure, I can't remember, but go ahead.
I said, Diane, you're a shaman, right? You know that, right? You're supposed to be a shaman. And I
Right.
didn't know what the heck a shaman really did. But I saw that energy around you again. Boy, I'm intuitive. I didn't realize I was. But I'm just going, Diane, accept it. You're a shaman. And so when you give people, from what I've since learned of shaman type approaches and Taoism and things like that, you give a task. And when the person does the task, it energizes, or as you say, empowers the shift to happen. And then whatever you do after that's easy because they've done the work.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
your approach is what I would call more shamanistic than the approach I came in kind of wanting to be a wannabe chiropractor without doing the 8 years of study,
Yes,
which
I
was,
do.
oh, I'm really into structure. I can help with that. And then really being shy about what we're doing is very sacred and very spiritual, and then leading people towards the spirituality of the work if you're ready. Yeah. I didn't have that full picture when I got started. I was just excited about switching muscles on and going, tell it no. Yeah, I still remember my joy of feeling that in my own body and wanting to share that as widely as possible. And my mission, I think, is just to give people feedback or ways to develop feedback or assess things to the best of their ability. It's a system. There are so many systems out there like Therapeutic Touch and so on. And it's just a system, and it's the one that really resonated for me. That's my light.
I wouldn't call therapeutic touch a system, though.
Mhm.
It's far deeper.
I think so too. It goes really
Okay,
deep.
I'll give you that. As a modality, it has a lot of flexibility and depth to it, and much more because I'm not trained in it. I think I've felt it only once or twice. I think Michelle has done a bit for me over the years especially when I was broken. Thank you, Michelle. I'm so grateful to all my colleagues who helped me when I had that injury.
Well, and TT is so easy to use all the time, anytime, anywhere. It's yeah. That's where, Denise, you have to put on your calendar to do the Therapeutic Touch practice group. And come and join in the practice group.
How can I join the practice group if I haven't been given instruction?
You can just receive.
Oh,
And it's lovely to have people to work on, because normally we just trade sessions with each other. It's really lovely if there's someone else there.
fresh meat.
Yeah.
I'll have to find out how to get invited to that someday.
It's in the newsletter,
Okay, I'll look
and all
at
the times are posted. And
I will pay
April's is even more
attention to
included.
it.
But our goal is to have more people to being participating in that, but also to be really aware of how TT integrates so beautifully with all the other things that we do, and how it might be empowering.
And can help the other things integrate.
Exactly, yeah. It's a really interesting idea, though, to use it as an integration piece at the end. I didn't think of that. I really like that.
Well, a lot of people were asking me way back when, after I learned 7 Chi keys, whatever I did, I checked the chakras, I balanced the chakras, front and back. I balanced the chakras. It would seal the deal. And I always truly felt that when other people were taking similar classes to me, but were not finishing up with a quick, let's do some chakra integration, at least the priority ones, they weren't doing that. Their results weren't as long lasting, or their clients weren't noticing changes. And at that point, it was easy enough to pinpoint what is the thing I'm doing they're not doing. And the thing I was doing was 7 Chi keys at the end. So if I'm balancing the field by balancing the chakras, I don't see why TT, it's a similar concept, yeah? It's to balance the field.
To balance the field as well as to create flow, to ensure there's flow.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't one imply the other?
Not necessarily.
So cryptic.
It's the same with joint anchor technique that balances the field. It's really powerful.
I didn't hear you.
Joint anchor technique.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And does Emma have the idea of being ready to be balanced with that joint anchor technique? Does she have anything at the start of that?
I took all the courses by her.
Mm-hmm.
And she taught all 4 levels now, the last level.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But does she have, like at the start of the protocols, does she have some way that to identify that people are ready for the change that's going to happen?
That I don't know. I know there exist protocols. She works not with a protocol. She works intuitive. And she taught us intuitive to work. No, I don't know. I don't think so, because she didn't talk about it.
I think she has a basic setup, a rudimentary setup, does she not? But that's not the same thing you're talking about, Michelle, to see if they're ready for the shift.
Yeah, I was just trying to remember because she did it at conference.
Yeah, she does every year at the conference. She takes a little piece out of it and present it.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to think, when she demonstrated at the front, she ran through a bunch of checks at the beginning, but I don't know that it was specifically to that.
Mm-hmm.
The first video I saw her present, she says you would have I have already pre-checked this person. This was several years ago. I've already pre-checked this person. And I've done my pre-checks, my setup, whatever, as you will do, and then let me show you this technique.
Yeah, you have pre-tests and you have in the end test, so that everything is integrated, that you have, that it's in every treatment, what you are doing, what you're performing, right? That is, it is a treatment. It is, you have first your opening, then you treat the client, and then you have the closing. And you, in the end, the closing, you check the chakras too. So, yeah. That is not presented at the conference.
So I'm thinking now about the bioenergetic wellness formula that I identified. What are our key things that we include in our sessions that other modalities don't use? So if you go to goal setting and intention, then within that intention, I've talked about the quality of what it is you want as a change. But I think what's missing is the initial, you even want to change. The assumption was there, people came for help, they want to change, but you can't actually assume that. So you have to assume, or you have to not assume that, and you have to check in. Do they want to change, and to what amount do they wish to change?
But they are coming to you because they want a change.
Well, there's more to it. When we do leap work, there's the cortical switching. When you do this stuff, that's cortical switching. That's just that little quarter inch or whatever gray stuff on top of the brain. But frequently, if you check, there's deep level switching and deep survival switching online that's going, oh, there's going to be a change that could be life-threatening. No, 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 no. And it will block all the therapeutic work. So when the conscious brain comes in and says, I want to change, but the much bigger unconscious brain says, I don't know if I can handle it. I've seen some really neurologically sensitive people, and they're scared to get any work done, even on a conscious level, because they're afraid of a healing crisis getting triggered if they're not treated holistically and if the session and safety checks aren't done at the end. Some people are aware of that consciously, other people completely unconscious about it. And that's, again, the part that's not showing up for the balance might be that part. Going, I can't. I don't want to participate in the shifts. They're scary, or I'm not sure I'll be able to handle it, or like there's so many flavors of I might want it, but my people back at home might not like the new me, or or this is going to empower me so much, I'm going to have to make a decision and change my circumstances at home or at work, or there's just, I was so frustrated when I started balancing people that almost everybody, if they came back for a second session, they'd say, oh, I feel so great. Thank you. Well, isn't that a bad thing to say? A lot of the people, they'd come for a second session and say, I'd love to keep coming. You make me feel so great, but I feel so great now. I'm moving. 80% of the people I worked with suddenly had the energy to make massive life changes when I first started. And I kind of was upset with that. I was happy for them. But you spend all this time attracting the client and then they're out. So I learned to say, and do you have a friend you could refer?
But you help this client in a
Yes,
big way.
absolutely. But I didn't have the words at the beginning or the marketing know-how to say, oh, I'm so happy you're going to Australia or Alberta or wherever, or. And do you have a friend that could backfill your spot so I can pay the bills? It's just like they never came into my awareness to ask them for a referral until much later down the road. And I actually complained at a SIPS class, and Ian Stubbings was teaching, and I think it might have been level 3 or 4. I can't remember. I've been to so many of his classes now, and the sponsor, I'm in the back of the room, and something was said, and I put my hand up, and he acknowledges me, and I says, Ian, I have a bone to pick with you. And he's such a teddy bear. And he really doesn't take, any kind of attack too well, even if it's like loving. It's just like, why didn't anybody tell me when I started doing SIPs that my people wouldn't be coming every 3 weeks? They would start stretching it out to every 3 months. Like, somebody should have told me how effective this system was.
Mm-hmm.
So I would learn earlier to say, and when you notice the changes, please pass this business card on to somebody else. That was my path to find him and fix him good.
I think in Therapeutic Touch, the alignment or the misalignment is between the mental and emotional fields. So the body cannot, this is my understanding, no one has to agree with me, that the mind can want something, but if the emotion isn't online with the same wanting or desire, then the mind can do a whole bunch of stuff, but it'll never get through to the body. So the point is to get the mind and the emotional fields in alignment, and then the body receives whatever it needs to receive.
And for me, that's where movement becomes important, because that's the forward action.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you just stay on the spot, and you can be stuck on that spot without knowing how to go forward. But to take that time to do the movement pattern, that's why I said brush knees. You could do it seated, and it does a forward motion with it. And if you do add feet, you're walking forward. So there's that piece, but then that's the physical aspect, rather than assuming that the physical aspect is, hey, Colin, we're in a deep discussion. So, but the physical aspect is, if the physical isn't there, you can have brain, mental and emotional, but those two pieces still have not integrated into body. That would just be my piece on that.
Well, in brush knee, what I really see there is the twisting of the spine is happening while you're moving opposite limbs. If you're stepping forward and you're reaching back, there's this twisting and the tensioning and the thing, which I would think, I can see why you would say that's could be a really integrative movement.
Yeah, for me, that's probably the best one. Now, I was trying to think when you said if you didn't know brush knees, but if you put a scarf in your hand, you can take the scarf back and have somebody bring the scarf through. So it gives you a visual that they're moving a scarf, and you can have the other side move the scarf, and you can see how a pattern could emerge. So you could do it in that capacity, and you end up with that psoas muscle being massaged back and forth, but you still have the opening of the shoulder seams and the hip seams in order to activate the brain to be able to integrate all that.
It's definitely a cross-patterning movement.
Yeah.
So we're saying if it's a psoas, if I remember this correctly, that's fear.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's fear of stopping them.
Yeah. So it would be opening that. And then the pumping action of that is that in energy coming in on the left, out on the right, you end up with this lovely massage that allows for it to release and create flow.
Cool.
Now we're all in deep thought.
I have to bounce at 5 or at the top of the hour for here in BC.
Yep.
Can I ask you a question, Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to connect resources to somebody I've just met? I sort of known of for a while, but didn't know what her mission was until today. She's looking to create a community for parents with autistic children.
Mhm.
So next month, sometime after you get caught up after coming back from your trip,
Mhm.
I might be able to make an introduction between you to support. So what I'm wondering is if you could offer her resources, people to call, things, she used to live in Nova Scotia. She's in Alberta now. She's done the, she's your yin to your yang.
Move the other direction. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. I just was
Yep.
curious if I could make that introduction somewhere down the road.
Yep. And Lisa Marcovici would be a great resource as well.
Oh, good to know. Let me write that down.
Yeah. In fact, maybe start with Lisa.
Okay.
You could do that right away. And then if they wanted anything more, I'm happy to do that.
And I was also thinking of Kristen Arndt. Does anybody know her?
Yes.
I think she's in Saskatchewan, and I think she's a mom with an autistic kid.
Yeah, I can't quite remember.
Okay. I was just wondering. I'm just looking to make connections.
There might be one or two connections in North Carolina for your friend Denise.
Okay. Do you know the name of the association or person?
Holly Burdock, HOLLYBURDOCK, and she goes between North Carolina and New York.
Okay. Nice, thank you.
And if we do end up, just off of this question, if you do end up with a good resource series of people, it would be lovely then to bring that forward into the membership, because we may have more people that are working with autistic people, and we may not know that. So then to bring that out in something like just even a question in the newsletter or in an outreach piece, or even if people want to gather for that kind of a conversation, that would be good too.
The Natural Health Practitioners of Canada, during their last conference, had an hour-long ethics portion that they provided to their membership, and it was about having autistic and neurodivergent clients.
Ooh.
And it was excellent.
Now we're bringing ethics on for Cambiotti starting May, June, and then traveling through all 3 levels by the end of December. But I don't think I saw that on the list. So I will check into that. If I could spell it.
Great, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Okay, I have one more piece because we have April. So April we have an hour later on the 17th, which is a Thursday. And then in May, we're back on to Tuesday. And if it turns out it's us, it's mostly gathering, then we can settle on Tuesday if that's the best day that works. Diane, I think it was you that you have a conflict. Is it Thursdays?
Yes, I work out of a storefront on every Thursday.
Okay, so I had it mixed up. So I thought I was helping you by going to Thursday, but I'm not.
Well, only if you want me to participate.
Absolutely. So, okay, so that's good to know, but I can't do much for April. That's just where it's at. But we are going to have a separate session on the 29th of April, which is on the index chart that was in the March newsletter. And the conversation that I hope we can inspire is looking at the index chart, which is accepted by the health community, and for us to look at that chart and find out if the questions are ones we could work with to do research, or we need to adjust the questions a little bit better to suit us, but still following in a similar format so that our research would be acceptable to the mainstream pieces because we've followed the same format. So that's what
What date and time is that again?
that one's on the 29th,
April?
April 29th, and it's at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
4 p.m. BC.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it in my schedule, thanks. I think that would be a conversation I'd like to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love for all of you to be there. And
Michelle.
now you have that introduction into how to look at that index and see what you think.
Michelle, are you familiar with the woman, Suzanne? I think it's Suzanne Engel something. Anyways, I'll have to find it, but she's with Therapeutic Touch International, and
Okay.
she did a research topic on how to create research that would be allowed by the general scientific group, but using modalities like therapeutic touch and that. Because
Awesome.
there was a whole write-up written.
Was that in a TTIA newsletter?
No, she holds our 2-hour long sessions every
Colin, we can hear you. Here we go.
she has research TTIA research sessions at 1 p.m. Pacific time on the second Sunday of each month. And they go over different research. And one of the topics was how to write a research paper that would be accepted.
Okay. And do you know if there's documentation that we might be able to access?
Yes, I'm going to figure something out for you and send it to you.
Awesome. That would be great. And then if it meant even if she came and had a chat with us, we see who's interested in this conversation, and then had a chat with those people that are interested, plus with the work that Thibaut is doing to build the bioenergetic wellness baccalaureate. This would be a really great opportunity. Sweet. I love it. Thank you, Diane. Awesome. Okay, it's top of the hour. I know you have to run, Denise.
Me
Yep.
too. Me
Okay.
too.
You guys got everything you need?
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank you
for-
so much.
Thank you for another great conversation. It's so amazing. I'm just going to stop the recording there.